The 1987 Masters of the Universe film promised us Castle Grayskull brought to life. A $22 million production, the most powerful action figure franchise on Earth, finally breathing on screen. What actually materialized in theaters that August wasn't just a disappointment, it was evidence of something far more alarming. A system failure so total, so structural, that creative talent was irrelevant from the first day of production. Today, we're going inside the wreckage, and what you find at the bottom isn't what you'd expect.
Okay. Oh, but we can't. If we disturb the gravitonic waves, Skeletor's key will locate us. Oh.
Sounds like he's already located us.
The Cannon Films production model, building bombs on borrowed time. Cannon Films operated on what aerospace engineers would call a negative margin tolerance business model. And if you don't know what that means yet, you will, because it explains everything. Their production philosophy required simultaneous filming of multiple projects using shared resources, sets, and crew. 43 films in various stages of production during 1987 alone. The company was running a movie studio like a just-in-time manufacturing plant with zero inventory buffer. Here's the thing about zero inventory buffer. There's no recovery window. One delayed delivery, one budget shock, one set that takes 3 extra days, and everything downstream collapses in sequence. Traditional studios maintain 18 to 24-month development pipelines specifically to absorb those shocks. Cannon compressed this to weeks. Their financial structure required constant theatrical releases to service debt, creating a perpetual motion machine that devoured projects whole. The engineering parallel is NASA's Space Shuttle program, which nearly collapsed from identical schedule-driven decision-making. When financing deadlines override production requirements, catastrophic failure doesn't become possible, it becomes inevitable. Cannon wasn't making movies, they were servicing loans with celluloid, and He-Man was next in line.
Soldiers will free you.
Skeletor has imprisoned me within this energy field, which only he can dissolve. You are in danger here, you must get...
The Mattel handoff, when eye-holders surrender quality control. At its 1985 peak, Mattel's Masters of the Universe toy line was moving approximately $400 million in annual retail sales. This was a Fortune 500 asset, a brand with the kind of commercial gravity that requires precision management, years of equity, and meticulous protection. Mattel licensed film rights to Cannon Films. Think about what that decision actually meant. A company operating on 90-day financing windows now controlled one of the most valuable entertainment properties in the world. And the contractual arrangement, this is critical, prioritized distribution guarantees over creative oversight. Not quality gates, not milestone approvals, distribution commitments. From a supply chain perspective, this is Boeing outsourcing critical fuselage components to the lowest bidder, while eliminating inspection protocols. Mattel's core competency was toy manufacturing and brand development. They had zero infrastructure for monitoring active film production. And Cannon's track record, Break-In 2, Electric Boogaloo, Delta Force, suggested competence in lean-budget action, not fantasy world building, not practical effects at scale, not the sustained coordination required to bring Eternia to life. The structural failure was written into the contract before a single frame was shot. No milestone-based quality gates meant no intervention window before the cameras rolled. By the time problems became visible, $12 million was already spent and burning. Defense contractors require performance bonds and progress inspections. Mattel required a distribution commitment. The difference between those two requirements is the story of this film.
Let her go.
I don't think so.
No.
While she remains imprisoned within this field.
The script crisis, engineering without blueprints. Production commenced in September 1986 without a completed screenplay. Let that sit for a moment. Director Gary Goddard received a 40-page treatment, not a script, a treatment, and was expected to develop actual shooting pages during active production. Scene blocking, effect sequences, character motivations, being written days before filming. The film was already in motion before anyone knew where it was going. In aerospace development, building before design finalization has a name: concurrent engineering. It exists for rapid prototyping, early-stage proofs of concept. It is explicitly not used for final production of complex systems, and when it has been, The F-35 program's catastrophic cost overruns trace partially to building airframes while the design was still changing. Cannon applied concurrent engineering to a $22 million fantasy epic requiring coordinated practical effects across multiple departments simultaneously. The production math becomes brutal. Script pages determine shooting schedules. Shooting schedules determine crew hours. Crew hours determine budget burn rate. Without locked pages, every department operates on assumptions, and assumptions compound. Costume designer Julie Weiss fabricated Skeletor's armor based on concept art that changed 3 times during production. 3 times. Each revision consumed fabrication time, materials, and money that didn't exist. Precision components cannot be machined from rough sketches. You cannot shoot precision sequences from treatment documents. The film was being invented and executed simultaneously by different people with no common blueprint. What came out of that process could only have been one thing.
Someone is speaking to me.
The budget architecture, $22 million for a $40 million vision. The approved budget was $22 million. The approved vision required approximately $40 million to execute. Someone approved both of these things. The film's 127-day shooting schedule was designed around the scripted Eternia sequences: Castle Grayskull, Snake Mountain, the Royal Palace of Eternos. For reference, Return of the Jedi cost $32.5 million in 1983 dollars. Adjusted to 1987, that's roughly $48 million. Cannon greenlit a comparably ambitious fantasy production at 46% of that allocation. Production cost engineering follows predictable formulas. Practical creature effects run $15,000 to $40,000 per suit day. Full set construction costs $200,000 to $500,000 per major environment. Optical effects processing runs $1,500 to $3,000 per composite shot. The scripted Eternia throne room sequence alone required construction costs exceeding $800,000. Original plans called for 6 distinct Eternia environments. Run those numbers. The financial physics were impossible before the first crew member was hired. Cannon's solution wasn't to renegotiate the budget. It wasn't to reduce the scope of the vision. The solution was something far more drastic, a decision that would define what this film became, and why audiences felt something had been taken from them before they could even name what it was.
Let her go.
I don't think so.
No.
The Earth relocation, tactical budget retreat. They moved the story to Earth, not as a creative choice, as financial triage. The original production documents showed extensive Eternia sequences, Castle Grayskull interiors, Snake Mountain exteriors, the throne room at scale. The final production utilized existing Los Angeles locations, a music store, a high school gymnasium, residential streets in Whittier, California. Environments that required 0 set construction budget. The cost recovery was genuine. Earth locations eliminated an estimated $2.1 million in fantasy set construction, $340,000 in period costume fabrication for background actors, $890,000 in creature suit requirements for Eternian citizens, and $220,000 per major sequence in optical effects for alien sky replacement. The cosmic key MacGuffin, the dimensional gateway that drives the entire plot, exists in the film for one reason. It needed to explain why He-Man and Skeletor were fighting in a California parking lot. From a pure logistics standpoint, this was brilliant triage. The engineering trade-off was audience expectation versus production survival. The production chose completed film over faithful adaptation, and under the circumstances, that choice was defensible. But here's what no one talks about. The Earth sequences weren't the failure. What happened to the footage that was shot in Eternia? That's the part that tells you everything about how bad things had gotten.
People of Eternia, the war is over.
The practical effects gambit, analog excellence under pressure. Before we get to the collapse, we need to talk about what the effects team actually pulled off. Because buried inside this disaster is genuine craftsmanship that deserves recognition. Skeletor's facial prosthetic required 3.5 hours of daily application, foam latex appliances over a fiberglass understructure, incorporating radio-controlled servo motors for jaw articulation. Technology derived directly from aerospace actuator systems. Frank Langella spent 3.5 hours every morning becoming a character, then performed with almost no ability to read facial expression feedback from scene partners. The throne room set deployed forced perspective techniques across a 60-foot soundstage to create the illusion of massive scale. Beastman and Blade's suits used vacuum-formed ABS plastic over foam padding, durable armor effects at roughly 30% the cost of machined fiberglass alternatives. In $2025, CGI equivalents for comparable character presence would cost approximately $800,000 per character. The practical approach delivered at $120,000 to $180,000 per major costume. The effects team achieved 1987's most ambitious prosthetic villain work on a Friday the 13th sequel budget, under collapsing financial conditions, while the script was still being written. That is not failure. That is engineering under conditions that would have broken most productions entirely. What came next, though? That was the part no amount of craftsmanship could survive.
Help! Get me out of there!
It's all right.
Help! Help! Help!
The canon collapse, when your studio dies mid-production. By late 1986, Canon Films' rolling financing model was coming apart. The structure required continuous theatrical revenue to service approximately $90 million in outstanding debt. Current productions funded completion of previous projects in a chain that only worked if every link held. Then Superman 4 underperformed. Over the Top flopped. Creditors began demanding accelerated repayment. The chain started breaking. Masters of the Universe entered post-production as Canon approached insolvency. The theatrical release in August 1987 landed during the company's most desperate financing window. Marketing budget, typically 50 to 75% of production costs for a major family release, was slashed to approximately $8 million. Television advertising, the primary reach mechanism for the film's core audience, received minimal investment. Consider what that means operationally. A film targeting children and families, built around one of the most recognized toy brands in the world, released in the peak summer window with television advertising that couldn't reach its audience. The production challenges were survivable. The marketing collapse was not. The parallel is Lockheed's 1971 near bankruptcy, when the C-5 Galaxy program suffered cascading resource starvation during final production phases. Financial distress doesn't affect one element. It metastasizes across every system simultaneously. And by the time it's visible, it's already everywhere. Canon didn't release Masters of the Universe. They abandoned it into theaters and hoped no one noticed how fast the building was burning.
Will die. You dare threaten her life? I dare anything.
The sequel asset strip, recycling failure into Cyborg. The domestic gross came in at $17.3 million against a $22 million production budget. Canon canceled Masters of the Universe 2 immediately. Here's what most people don't know. The sequel had already entered pre-production. Sets constructed, costumes fabricated, crew contracted. A meaningful amount of money was already deployed into a film that would never be made. Canon's response to this was, depending on your perspective, either ruthlessly efficient or deeply strange. All constructed assets were immediately repurposed for Cyborg, the Jean-Claude Van Damme post-apocalyptic vehicle that went into production almost immediately after Masters 2 was canceled. Eternia throne room sections became dystopian ruins. Skeletor costume elements were modified into villain attire. The entire pre-production investment was stripped for parts within weeks. In manufacturing, this is called asset recovery, extracting residual value from failed programs. Defense contractors do this routinely with canceled project components. Canon achieved approximately 40% cost recovery on Masters 2 pre-production through the conversion. The sequel didn't fail and disappear. It was harvested for organs and stitched into something else. Somewhere in Cyborg, pieces of Eternia are still visible if you know where to look.
Break into the force field and free the sorcerers. Right.
The Mattel litigation, contract warfare. Mattel sued. The breach of contract claims covered multiple performance categories: budget overruns exceeding agreed thresholds, failure to execute approved marketing commitments, unauthorized creative deviations from licensed property guidelines. Damages sought exceeded the film's total production cost. Contract disputes in licensed IP follow recognizable fault trees, and the Canon situation made Mattel's case structurally straightforward. The agreement presumably included performance guarantees, minimum marketing expenditure, release window requirements, creative approval checkpoints. Canon's financial collapse made compliance with any of those terms impossible. The company couldn't honor marketing commitments because marketing budgets had been diverted to creditor repayment. The litigation outcome remains partially sealed. Settlement terms reportedly included reduced future licensing fees and Canon's forfeiture of sequel rights, which were, by that point, largely theoretical anyway, given what had been done to the pre-production assets. For Mattel, the accounting was simple and devastating. Failed film, expensive litigation, and years of brand rehabilitation requirements before the property could be repositioned for another attempt. They had handed the keys to a $400 million asset to a company with a 90-day financing window. And the contract hadn't protected them at all. When your licensee declares bankruptcy, contract enforcement becomes theoretical. Mattel learned this the expensive way.
No blessing is necessary. Any foe of Skeletors is a friend of ours.
Now, why are you so important to Skeletor?
The Reboot Graveyard, 30 years of development hell. Since 1987, Masters of the Universe live-action rights have cycled through Warner Brothers, Columbia Pictures, and Sony Pictures without a single film reaching production. Attached directors have included John Woo, John M. Chu, and the Nee brothers. Scripts have been commissioned from writers including Alex Litvak, Mike Finch, and David S. Goyer, some of the most capable commercial writers working in Hollywood. Total development expenditure across these failed attempts likely exceeds the original film's production budget. Development hell operates on quantifiable patterns. Each studio attachment requires 18 to 24 months of script development, talent negotiations, and pre-production planning before greenlight decisions. Negative decisions reset the entire cycle. The 1987 Films Association created persistent financing friction. Investors perceive damaged brand equity and price in risk premiums that make economic justification harder with each passing cycle. Every new attempt has to first climb out of the hole the 1987 film dug. That's the legacy Canon left behind. Not just a disappointing movie, but a gravitational drag on the property that compounds across decades. The franchise finally achieved theatrical resurrection in 2024. 37 years after the Canon production, that interval exceeds the complete development timeline of the B-2 stealth bomber, a vehicle that required fundamentally new materials science, aerodynamics theory, and avionics architecture to exist. Some engineering failures echo for generations. So here's what the wreckage actually shows us. Masters of the Universe wasn't destroyed by creative incompetence. It wasn't destroyed by Frank Langella or Gary Goddard or the effects team working 14-hour days in foam latex and fiberglass. The film was destroyed by financial physics, by a $40 million vision approved at $22 million, by a licensing agreement with no quality gates, by a production model that required everything to go right in a system specifically designed to make that impossible. The practical effects team delivered genuinely remarkable work under conditions that would have broken most productions. The Earth relocation, as heretical as it felt to fans, was defensible triage. The people making this film, in the rooms and on the sets, were doing extraordinary things with impossible constraints. What they couldn't do was survive the system collapsing around them. Which production disaster surprised you most? Drop it in the comments below. If you want more impossible productions broken down to their structural failures, subscribe. Film's development nightmare is queued up next, and what went wrong there makes Canon look organized. By the power of Grayskull and a functional budget,